Hello all, hope you are doing well. In the last video, we have seen the what are the topics we have to study in the surveying. So here we are with first topic of the surveying, that is the basics of the surveying. So let us start the topic. Okay, so here first we will see what is the definition of the surveying. Okay, so basically surveying is the determination of relative positions of the points by measuring horizontal, vertical and angular measurements. Okay, now suppose there is a point here. Okay, there is a point here. Let us say this point is some city like New Delhi. Okay, and there is another point which is Hyderabad, let us say. Now we can say that the distance between Hyderabad and New Delhi is 2000 kilometers. Okay, we can say like the distance between New Delhi and Hyderabad is 2000 kilometers. So the point is we are saying that the position of New Delhi with respect to the Hyderabad, that means we are giving what? We are giving the relative position of the point here. Okay, so that relative position we are giving by measuring horizontal, vertical and angular measurements. Okay, horizontal distance means here this 2000 kilometers is the horizontal distance. Then we can say like suppose Hyderabad is here and Delhi is somewhere here. Okay, then we can say like New Delhi is located at the north of the Hyderabad. Okay, New Delhi is located in the north direction of the Hyderabad. Okay, so we are giving the angular measurement like that. Similarly, we will say the vertical measurement also. Vertical measurement means suppose Hyderabad is located at an elevation of 500 meters from the mean sea level. Delhi may be located at the height of 1000 meters from the mean sea level. Okay, so like that you can give the vertical measurement also. Okay, so surveying is what? Surveying is the determination of relative positions of the points by measuring three types of measurements. What are the three types? Horizontal, vertical and angular measurements. Angular measurement means it can be either bearing or angle. Vertical measurement means it is the elevation, and horizontal measurement means it is the distance. Okay, so in the surveying we have three types of basic measurements. What are they? Distance, elevation and bearing or angle. Then next point is mean shape of the earth. Okay, the mean shape of the earth is oblate spheroid. Okay, here you can see the mean shape of the earth. Okay, so whatever the earth is there, that is not exactly spherical in shape, instead it is spheroid in shape. Okay, so if you take the earth, it consists of two axes which are like this axis is called as, this horizontal axis is called as equatorial axis, and this vertical axis is called as polar axis. Okay, so here if both these lengths are same, then we can say the shape of the object is sphere. But here the equatorial axis is slightly greater than the polar axis, so this kind of shape is called as oblate spheroid. Okay, so what is the mean shape of the earth? Oblate spheroid. But if I ask you exact shape of the earth, exact shape of the earth, okay, now we are representing the shape of the earth like this, but it is not actually like that. Instead there are some undulations on the earth surface. So earth surface can be somewhat like this. Okay, means it is earth surface consists of some undulations like this because of the mountains, because of the valleys, some undulations are there. Now whatever the exact shape of the earth is there, okay, whatever the exact shape of the earth is there, that is called as geoid. Okay, so the mean shape of the earth is called as oblate spheroid, the exact shape of the earth is called as geoid. Okay, then let us see the difference between plane surveying and geodetic surveying. Okay, let us see the difference between plane surveying and geodetic surveying. Okay, now if you take the plane surveying, in that earth surface is assumed to be flat. Okay, so here you can see like earth surface has some curvature. Okay, earth surface has some curvature because it is spherical because it is spheroid in nature. But if you take the plane surveying, in that earth surface is assumed to be flat. That means instead of assuming that earth surface is curved, we are going to think that earth surface is flat like this. Now if you take the geodetic surveying, here we will consider the curvature of the earth. So very important question is, in which of the surveying curvature of the earth is considered? That is what? Geodetic surveying. Then the second difference is, if you take the plane surveying, 2 points on Earth surface are joined using a straight line. Okay, suppose this is the Earth surface. This is the actual Earth surface. Now you take any 2 points on the Earth surface. Take one point here, take another point here. Okay, so these 2 points are joined using a straight line like this. Okay, the 2 points are joined using a straight line. Okay, but if you take the geodetic surveying, those 2 points on the Earth surface are joined using the arc. Okay, so see the difference here. If you take the plane surveying, these 2 points are connected using a straight line like this, whereas if you take the geodetic surveying, these 2 points are connected using a arc like this. That's the second difference. Okay, then third difference is plane surveying is used for small areas of survey. Okay, plane surveying is used for small areas of survey, whereas geodetic surveying is used for large areas of survey. Okay, basically this exact area of the survey is mentioned with a different value in different books, but in the exam point of view, consider it as 260 square kilometer. We consider it as 260 square kilometer. So if the area is less than 260 square kilometer, we will use the plane surveying. If the area is greater than 260 square kilometer, we will use the geodetic surveying. That's the third point. Okay, next one is plane surveying is used for all engineering purpose. I told that for the areas less than 260 square kilometer, we use the plane surveying. Now you take any engineering purpose, its area will be most of the times less than 260 square kilometer. So for all the engineering purpose like construction of buildings, construction of roads, we are going to use the plane surveying only. Then this geodetic surveying is used to establish the control points. Okay, the geodetic surveying is used to establish the control points. Okay, then in the case of the plane surveying, plumb lines are parallel to each other. Okay, in case of the plane surveying, plumb lines are parallel to each other. So here in the first point, I told that Earth's surface is assumed to be flat like this. Okay, flat like this. Now, if you release the plumb bob from this point, it will reach the ground like this. If you release the plumb bob from this point, it will reach the ground like this. From this point, it will reach the ground like this. Now, whatever these lines are there, that is the direction of the plumb bob. That is called as plumb line. Okay, so here in case of the plane surveying, you can see that plumb lines are parallel to each other. But if you see the geodetic surveying, okay, if you see the geodetic surveying, plumb lines meets at the center of Earth upon extending. Okay, now in the geodetic surveying, Earth surface is considered like this. So if you release the plumb bob here, it will reach the Earth surface like this. If you release the plumb bob here, it will reach the Earth surface like this. If you release here, it will reach like this. Now if you extend all these points, they will meet at the center of the Earth. They will meet at the center of the Earth. That means they are not parallel. Okay, so in case of the plane surveying, plumb lines are parallel to each other, whereas in case of the geodetic surveying, plumb lines meets at the center of the Earth upon extending. So these are the difference between plane surveying and geodetic surveying. Next one is classification of survey based on the purpose. So totally 6 types of surveys are there based on the purpose of the survey. They are first one, topographical survey. So basically this topographical survey is conducted to represent the features on the Earth's surface. Okay, to represent the features on the Earth's surface. So features in the sense, so we are going to represent rivers, valleys, okay, then peaks, mountains, these things. Okay, so all these things are represented in the topographical survey. Then if you take the cadastral survey, okay, if you take the cadastral survey, it is conducted to fix the boundaries of the land. The cadastral survey is conducted what? It is conducted to fix the boundaries of the land. Then engineering survey is conducted for all the engineering purpose. Engineering purpose means I already told you for the construction of buildings, dams, roads, these things. Then astronomical survey is conducted to determine the longitude and latitude of the location. Okay, to determine the longitude and latitude of the location. Then geological survey is conducted to determine the depth of soil strata. To determine the depth of soil strata. Then last one, hydrographic survey. It is conducted in the water bodies. It is conducted in the water bodies to determine the depth of it. Okay, so these are the total 6 types of survey based on the purpose. Okay, so which of the survey is conducted to determine the boundaries of the land, that is the cadastral survey. Which of the survey is conducted to determine the longitude and latitudes, that is the astronomical survey. Which survey is conducted to determine the depth of the soil strata, that is the geological survey. Which survey is conducted to determine the depth of water bodies, that is the hydrographic survey. Which survey is conducted to represent the features on the earth surface, that is the topographic survey. So these are the 6 types. Next one is principles of the surveying. Okay, so here basically two principles of surveying are there. In that, first one is work from whole to parts. Okay, so the basic principle of surveying is we have to work from whole to parts always. Okay, now suppose take an area like this. Okay, take an area like this. So while measuring the area of this, we have to divide this into parts like this. Okay, the given area has to be divided into parts. Then we have to determine the area of the each part. Okay, we have to determine the area of the each part. Then at the end, if you add all of them, you will get the whole area. Okay, so why we have to divide into parts is, if you work from whole to parts, then it will minimize the error. Okay, if you work from whole to part, what happens, it will minimize the error. Okay, suppose if you are doing the work from part to whole, then it will accumulate the error. Okay, so accumulate the error means it will increase the error, so you should not do that. Okay, so we have to always work from whole to parts. Then second principle of the surveying is each point is established with reference to two measurements. Suppose now you have a point A here, and I am asking you to establish another point B. Okay, I am asking you to establish another point B. The point B has to be established at a distance of 10 meters from A. Then one person will establish point B here, another person will be establish point B here, another person will establish point B here. Now the thing is, all these points are located at 10 meters only. Okay, so the thing you have to understand is you have to take second measurement also. Okay, you have to take a second measurement also. So first I told the distance, which is 10 meters, and along with that I am going to mention that point B is located at the bearing of 90 degrees from A. Okay, point B is located at the bearing of 90 degrees from A. Then you will exactly establish the point here. Okay, you will exactly establish the point here. So if I give that second measurement, then you can easily establish the exact point. Okay, so whatever these two measurements are there, they can be both distance or else both angles, or else it can be one distance and one angle like this. One distance and one angle like this. Okay, so what are the two principles of the surveying? First one is you have to work from whole to part, because that will minimize the error, and second one is each point is established with reference to two measurements. What are the two measurements? It can be both distance, both angles, or it can be one distance and one angle. Okay, these are the principles. Okay, next one is the representative fraction. Before discussing the representative fraction, first let us see what is the scale of the map. So scale of the map is basically equal to distance on the map divided by distance on the ground. So distance on the map divided by distance on the ground, that will give you scale of the map. So basically we represent the scale of the map like 1 centimeter equal to 100 meter, 1 centimeter equal to 1 meter, like that. Okay, so now whatever this scale is given, if you write that in the fraction form, okay, if you write the scale in the fraction form, that is called as representative fraction. So the scale written in the fraction form is called as a representative fraction. So let us see how to convert from scale to the RF. Now suppose a scale is given like 1 centimeter equal to 10 meter, and this you have to convert into RF. So first what we have to do is, the distance on the map equal to how much? 1 centimeter, and this is the distance on the ground, which is 10 meter. So this 10 meters I have to convert into centimeters. So 10 into 100 centimeters. So that will be equal to how much? 1000 centimeter. Okay, now 1 centimeter equal to 1000 centimeter, that is the scale. So you can write the RF like 1 centimeter by 1000 centimeter. So you will get it like 1 by 1000. Similarly, if you have a scale like 1 centimeter equal to some 2 kilometers. Okay, then how to convert this? 1 centimeter equal to 2 kilometer, but each kilometer equal to how many meters? 1000 meters. So 2 into 1000 meters. Then again, each meter can be written as 100 centimeters. So it can be written as 1000 into 100 centimeters. So this will be like 2 lakh centimeters totally. Okay, then what will be the RF here? 1 by 2 lakh. Okay, so that like that you have to convert from scale to the RF. Then sometimes you have to convert from RF to the scale. Okay, you have to convert from RF to the scale. Suppose RF is given like 1 by 500. Okay, so if you want to convert this into the scale form, first you will write like 1 centimeter equal to 500 centimeter. Now whatever this 500 centimeter, that you will write in the form of the meter, so that will be equal to 5 meters. So this will be the scale of the given RF. Suppose I have given like 1 by some 4000. Then you will write like 1 centimeter equal to 4000 centimeter. So further it can be written like 1 centimeter equal to 4000 centimeter equal to how many meters? 40 meters. So like that you can convert. Okay. Then suppose I have given you two types of scales. Okay, one is 1 centimeter equal to 1 meter, another one is 1 centimeter equal to 2 meter. Then which of them is a large scale and which of them is small scale? Okay, so if I ask you among the given two scales, which of them is large and which of them is small, the first thing you have to calculate is you have to calculate the RF. Here RF is how much? 1 by 100. Here RF is how much? 1 by 200. So whatever is the smaller value, okay, whatever is the smaller value, that will become the small scale, and whatever is larger value, that will become the large scale. Now 1 by 100, 1 by 200, which is small value? 1 by 200 is the small value, so this will be the small scale, and here this will be the large scale. Okay, so if I ask you to determine the large scale among the given scale, first you write the RF of the scale, then compare all those values. Okay, in that whatever is the larger value, that represents the large scale. Okay, so that is about the representative fraction. So next one is the types of the scales. So basically we use four types of the scales in the surveying. They are plane scale, diagonal scale, vernier scale, and chord scale. So now if you take the plane scale, in this, graduations are represented only on one axis. Okay, and using this plane scale, you can measure up to only two divisions. Okay, plane scale is used to measure only up to two divisions. That means suppose if you want to represent 5 meters on the plane scale, you can represent. If you want to represent 15 meters on the plane scale, you can represent. But if you want some readings like 15.2 meters, 15.6 meters, that is not possible in the plane scale. Then next one is the diagonal scale. In this diagonal scale, we represent the graduations on two axes. Okay, we represent the graduations on two axes. That means one axis we will take like this. Here we will represent the graduation. Here also we will represent the graduation. So because of this representation of graduation on additional axis, using the diagonal scale, you can measure up to 3 divisions. Okay, so remember that plane scale is used to measure up to 2 divisions, diagonal scale is used to measure up to 3 divisions. In the plane scale, graduations are represented only on one axis, diagonal scale, graduations are represented on two axes. That's the difference between. Then next one is the vernier scale. Okay, so this vernier scale we will see in detail because it is important in the exam point of view. Now, in vernier scale, when you use the vernier scale, it is always attached to the main scale. Okay, vernier scale is always attached to the main scale. So whatever the vernier scale divisions are there, okay, whatever the vernier scale divisions are there, they are slightly less or greater than main scale divisions. Okay, whatever the vernier scale divisions are there, they are slightly greater or less than the main scale divisions. Okay, now what is the importance of this vernier scale is because of providing it, accuracy of the instrument get improves. Okay, so the purpose of vernier scale is to improve the accuracy of the instrument or else to improve the accuracy of the measurement. Okay, so now if you see in the vernier scale, again 4 types are there. So let us see them one by one. First one is the direct vernier. Okay, first one is the direct vernier. And the principle of the direct vernier is n minus 1 divisions on main scale equal to n divisions on the vernier scale. N divisions on the vernier scale. Okay, so whatever the first, what we do is we will have one main scale here. In this main scale we will take, suppose here 10 divisions are there. Okay, 1 centimeter we have 10 divisions. So in that we will take n minus 1 divisions. That means we will take only 9 divisions here. So this 9 divisions we are going to divide into 10 divisions on the vernier scale. Okay, so what is the principle of direct vernier? N minus 1 divisions on main scale equal to n divisions on the vernier scale. So now the point is, we are dividing n minus 1 divisions on main scale into n divisions on vernier scale. Because of this, vernier divisions are slightly less than the main scale division. Okay, that means if you take one main scale division here and if you take one vernier scale division here, that vernier scale division is less than the main scale division. Okay, so that's about the direct vernier. Now the second one is the retrograde vernier. So in case of the direct vernier, what was the principle I told? N minus 1 divisions on the main scale equal to n divisions on the vernier scale. Now in this, n plus 1 divisions on main scale equal to n divisions on the vernier scale. N divisions on the vernier scale. Okay, so first if you have the main scale like this, okay, if you have the main scale like this, and in this main scale 1 centimeter is there. This 1 centimeter is already divided into how many divisions? 10 divisions. Then what we will do is we will take one more additional division, that is the 11th division. So we will take 11 divisions on the main scale here. Then this 11 divisions are divided into 10 divisions. Okay, because n plus 1 divisions, I am taking 11 divisions. So this 11 divisions I have to divide into how many divisions? 10 divisions on the vernier scale. So now because of this, whatever the vernier divisions are there, that will be slightly greater than the main scale divisions. Okay, that will be slightly greater than the main scale divisions. So in case of the direct vernier, vernier divisions are slightly less than the main scale divisions, whereas in case of the retrograde vernier, vernier divisions are slightly greater than the main scale divisions. Okay, that's the difference. Next one is the extended vernier. So in this extended vernier, the principle is 2n minus 1 divisions on main scale equal to n divisions on the vernier scale. N divisions on the vernier scale. Okay, so the principle of the extended vernier is 2n minus 1 divisions on main scale equal to n divisions on the vernier scale. Suppose if you take 19 divisions, okay, if you take 19 divisions on the main scale, 19 means 2 into 10 minus 1, that should be equal to how many divisions on the vernier scale? It has to be equal to 10 divisions on the vernier scale. So like this we use the extended vernier. Then last one is the double vernier. So what is this double vernier is, sometimes what we do is, if this is the instrument, now suppose you are measuring the angle here. Okay, we are measuring the angle here. Suppose this is 0 here and this is 5 degrees here, this is 10 degrees here, somewhat like this. On this side also, while measuring the angle, it has to be 5, 10, 15 like this. So in both the sides, the measurements are same. So now in this case, what we have to do is, we have to provide the vernier scale in this direction, we have to provide the vernier scale in this direction also. So if you provide the vernier in both the directions like that, that is called as a double vernier. So these are the four types of the vernier scales we have. So what are the four types of the vernier scales we have? First one, direct vernier. What is the principle of the direct vernier? N minus 1 divisions on main scale equal to n divisions on the vernier scale. And what is the principle of the retrograde vernier? N plus 1 divisions on the main scale equal to n divisions on the vernier scale. What is the principle of the extended vernier? 2n minus 1 divisions on the main scale equal to n divisions on the extended scale. Vernier scale. Then what is double vernier? It is the vernier used on both the directions of the instrument. Okay. Then last type of the scale is chord scale. This chord scale is used to represent the angles. Okay, chord scale is used to represent the angles. So this is about the four types of the scales we use in the surveying. So next topic is the shrinkage of the map. Now a map was drawn some 200 years ago, let us say, and there are 2 points in the map which are A and B, suppose. So when the map was drawn, the distance between the 2 points was represented as 10 centimeter, and at the bottom of the map scale is written like 1 centimeter equal to 1 kilometer. Then whoever study this map, he will understand that the distance between AB is how much? 10 kilometers. So this was drawn some 200 years ago. Now when the map was opened in the year 2020, okay, when the map was opened in the year 2020, by this time it is subjected to the shrinkage. Okay, by this time it is subjected to the shrinkage, and one person has measured the distance between 2 points and he has obtained it as 8 centimeters. Okay, so at the bottom of the map scale is written like how much? 1 centimeter equal to 1 kilometer. Even though the map is subjected to shrinkage, whatever written on the map, that will not change here. So by looking at this and measuring this as 8 centimeter, he will report that AB equal to 8 kilometers. But whether this 8 kilometers is the correct distance or 10 kilometers is the correct distance. 10 kilometers is the correct distance. So this 10 kilometer is actual distance here. Whereas this is the measured distance in the year 2020. Okay, so now in this case you can calculate a factor called as shrinkage factor. So for that shrinkage factor, the formula is measured distance divided by actual distance. So now once if you find the shrinkage factor for other points, you can determine the actual distance. So how to determine that actual distance is actual distance equal to measured distance for those points. Okay, so measured distance divided by shrinkage factor. Okay, measured distance divided by shrinkage factor. And sometimes you have to determine the area between the points also. In that case, actual area equal to measured area divided by shrinkage factor square. Okay, measured area divided by shrinkage factor square. Okay, then why we are using square here is because if you take the area, shrinkage will be there in one direction and shrinkage will be there in other direction also. So as the shrinkage is in both the direction, you have to take it like shrinkage factor into shrinkage factor, that will be the shrinkage factor square. Then you can determine the shrunk scale for the given map. Okay, shrunk scale for the given map. So what is this shrunk scale is? Actual scale is 1 centimeter equal to 1 kilometer. But so when the map is subjected to that shrinkage, we can change the scale of the map, which is called as shrunk scale, and that shrunk scale equal to actual scale into shrinkage factor. Actual scale into shrinkage factor. So here what is the actual scale? 1 centimeter by 1 kilometer, and what is the shrinkage factor? 0.8. So you can write like 1 centimeter divided by 1 kilometer divided by 0.8. So this can be written as 1 centimeter divided by 1.25 kilometer. So now what is the shrunk scale in this case is 1 centimeter equal to 1.25 kilometer. So that's about the shrinkage of the map. Next one is correction for wrong scale. So what is this correction for wrong scale is? Sometimes while drawing the map, we will adapt some scale. Let us say the adapted scale is 1 centimeter equal to 1 kilometer. But while measuring the things in the office, okay, we may adopt the wrong scale by mistake. So the actual scale for which the map was drawn is 1 centimeter equal to 1 kilometer, and by mistake you have adapted the scale of 1 centimeter equal to 10 kilometer. Now if you adapt this scale you will get the correct distance. If you adapt this scale you will get the wrong distance. So whatever this correct distance is there, that is I am calling as actual distance, and whatever the distance measured while by taking the wrong scale, that I am calling as a measured distance. Okay, now in this case, if you know the measured distance, how to determine the actual distance? So let us see that. So actual distance equal to measured distance, actual distance equal to measured distance into RF of wrong scale divided by RF of actual scale. Okay, RF of wrong scale divided by RF of actual scale. So now you can determine, sometimes we will determine the area also, we have to determine the area also. So in that case actual area equal to measured area into, so for this factor, that means RF of wrong scale divided by RF of actual scale, for that you have to consider the square. So RF of wrong scale divided by RF of correct scale whole square you have to take. So like this you will determine the actual area. So this is about the corrections for the wrong scale. With this the first chapter is completed, and in the second chapter we will see the chain surveying. If you like our video, please share it to your friends, and please subscribe to our YouTube and Telegram channels. The link were given in the description. Thank you.